All right, Shalom. Let's get this going. All right, Shalom. We're good to go. Just making sure the audio was good.
Trump is firing the nukes. Trump sent nuclear armed planes towards Iran, and he is now in.
Oh well, fuck it. Let it happen. Welcome, America, to nuclear war. And all it took was for these idiotic rapists and pedophiles to manipulate you idiots, you uneducated, babbling morons who hate people who aren't white, to allow them to open up Hell's Gate. Don't make me none. We've died for being black. White people are going to die for being white. There's no take back. You fucked up. Oh, and though America is going to use nuclear war, that's cool and all. But when Russia, China, and pretty much every other country starts gunning for us, Israel has free health care. We don't. Thank you. You guys are fucking stupid.
Let's play that one more time.
Trump is firing the nukes. Trump sent nuclear armed planes towards Iran, and he is now in.
Oh well, fuck it. Let it happen. Welcome, America, to nuclear war. And all it took was for these idiotic rapists and pedophiles to manipulate you idiots, you uneducated, babbling morons who hate people who aren't white, to allow them to open up Hell's Gate. Don't make me none. We've died for being black. White people are going to die for being white. There's no take back. You fucked up. Oh, and though America is going to use nuclear war, that's cool and all. But when Russia, China, and pretty much every other country starts gunning for us, Israel has free health care. We don't. Thank you. You guys are fucking stupid.
All right, Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who taught me this truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. I'm back with another live lesson through the Holy Spirit, the Rakakwadash. All right. And this is the American nightmare. Okay. Blood will be poured out in the streets. Okay. 2nd Ezra 15, 2nd Ezra 16 is at the door. All right. So this article here is from America's First Report. It says Iran is threatening to conduct T attacks that will cause, quote, national mourning in America. All right. So let's read on here. Okay. So it reads on here. It says, does Iran have the ability to conduct 9/11 style attacks on U.S. soil? As you will see below, the Iranians are making all sorts of very serious threats, and they are encouraging us to, quote, prepare as many coffins as possible, right? Check that out. It says they are encouraging us to prepare as many coffins as possible. But most Americans do not take such threats seriously, right? And that's the pride of America, the pride of Babylon, okay? Which is soon to be humbled, right? It says, but most Americans do not take such threats seriously. They seem to believe that the war that is raging on the other side of the planet could never reach us. Unfortunately, the truth is that Iranian terror is a very potent threat. Okay? The truth is that Iranian terror is a very potent threat. The Iranians used chemical weapons against protesters in January. I have documented that U.S. officials have known about their biological weapons program since the 1990s. And many believe that the Trump administration is greatly underestimating their nuclear capabilities, which they are. This is why they lost the war, and they continue to lose the war. It says many believe that the Trump administration is greatly underestimating their nuclear capabilities. I am entirely convinced that they could potentially pull off a mass casualty event that would, quote, cause mourning, that will cause national mourning in America. All right. So, like I said, this is definitely the American nightmare right here. Okay. There's going to be a lot of blood that's going to be poured out in the streets in these times to come, man. Again, a time like no other. It says a mass casualty event that will cause national mourning in America. As I write this article, another night of bombing has begun in the Middle East. All right. So this is Isaiah 47 real quick. Let me get that too. Because like he was saying, these American people feel like they're not taking these threats seriously, right? There's Isaiah 47 and 1. Isaiah 47 and 1, and it reads, it says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon." Okay, so to sit in the dust means, to be in a state of confusion. Okay, which we see America is in that state right now. And also sitting in the dust representing being brought down to a very low estate. All right, let me make that point too. In Isaiah 26. All right, Isaiah 26 and 5, right? So this is Isaiah 26 and 5. And it reads, "For he bringeth down them that dwell on high. The lofty city, he layeth it low." That lofty city is America. "The lofty city, he layeth it low. He layeth it low, even to the ground. He bringeth it even to the dust." You see? NLT, Isaiah 26 and 5. "He humbles the proud and brings down the arrogant city. He brings it down to the dust." All right. So just, land back on what was said in that article, where it said that, many Americans they don't take the threats of Iran seriously. Okay. Let's go back. So back in Isaiah 47 and 1 again. "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." Because, America's about to be touched. America's going to be invaded. Okay. It's going to see a war, which is World War III. All right. The sleeper cells. Okay. You have the agents that they have set up that are waiting for that green light to cause all hell to break loose. So America, Babylon the Great, will no more be regarded as tender and delicate. Okay. NLT. It says, "Come down, virgin daughter of Babylon, sit in the dust, for your days of sitting on a throne have ended." Okay. "O daughter of Babylon, never again will you be the lovely princess, tender and delicate." All right, because this woman, this whore, if you will, is going to get ravished. Okay. So let's go back and read some more. All right, this is a done deal, as we all know. All right, again, the title, "Iran is threatening to conduct T attacks that will cause national mourning in America." Let's see if we get some more out of here. It says the Iranians are never going to give President Trump what he wants, and Trump is getting very frustrated with them. Earlier today, Trump issued an extremely ominous ultimatum. All right. It says from this point forward, this is what he said, "From this point forward, anytime the Islamic Republic of Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be by missile, rocket, drone, or any other device or weapon, the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in the capital city of Tehran. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald Trump." All right. So more threats are going out back and forth between America, Iran, so on and so forth. All right. Let's just see if we can take a little bit else from this and then we'll move on. Bear with me. You know what? I can't summarize it on the Google Chrome, but let me just read the summary from my other search engine here, all right? So we can just get to the point. All right, 1 second. Let me just pull that up. Okay. Give me 1 minute. Now let me pull it up. It's taking too long. Come on, man. Let's go. All right, give me 1 second. I just want to see if I can get this going. All right, go ahead, summarize the page. You know what to do. All right, let's see what we got. One more second. Hold on, it's just moving a little slow. All right, I just want to read the summary here. It's a long article. We're not going to read that whole thing. All right, finally, here we go. Iranian threats against the United States. All right, so I'm summarizing this article that you see on the screen right here. All right. It says Iranian threats against the United States, mass casualty warnings. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, has threatened the U.S. with a 9/11 style operation. So we already know, all right, because the small hats, they said the same thing, that America is due for another 9/11 type attack. Okay, so this next one they're going to do is going to bring America down to its knees, man. All right. So it says they have threatened the U.S. with the 9/11 style operations that would lead to national mourning, while the Iranian embassy in Spain suggested the U.S. prepare as many coffins as possible. Biological warfare concerns. The author expresses grave concern that Iran could utilize asymmetric warfare, such as releasing highly contagious biological agents against vulnerable soft targets on U.S. soil. Right. So, and I'm thinking about when they found and it was by a small hat too. They found, I think it was in Vegas, in this home. They found a bunch of plagues and diseases that were in a home in Las Vegas, enough to take down, America. So don't forget about that too. So a lot of this shit that you see or hearing about right now is going to be blamed on Iran. Okay. Infrastructure retaliation in response to an ultimatum from President Donald Trump. The IRGC aerospace commander Musavi warned that any U.S. strikes on Iranian power plants or bridges will be met with retaliatory strikes on the energy facilities and infrastructure of America's Gulf allies. All right, let's read a little bit more. It says disruption of global shipping and energy supplies. Strait of Hormuz. Iranian official Mohammed Bagher Gobaf declared that the strait will not return to pre-war conditions, warning that if Iran prevented from selling oil, they would ensure no other nation in the region can either. All right. Let's move on. Potential U.S. military expansion in Africa. Okay. So we get that. So there you go. So I was thinking about, let's go real quick. Let's go to 2nd Esdras 15. That's why I said 2nd Esdras 15 and 2nd Esdras 16 is at the doorstep, right? Let me make that point too. All right, they got the sleeper cells. They got the false flag set up, right? 2nd Esdras 15. Let's go back to that. I've been bringing this out quite a lot. Let's get into the Carmenians real quick again. All right, 2nd Esdras 15. In verse 28, and it reads, behold a horrible vision in the appearance thereof from the east, all right, the so-called Middle East. where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, and that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Okay, and it was another article that came across the feed. They were saying that Muslims over there in Iran and Afghanistan, Syria, whatnot, the guy was saying, the small hat was saying that they no longer fear, the West. All right, which ties into all of the verse 30. Also, the Carmenians raging in wrath. All right, the Carmenians representing the Persians, the Iranians, raging in wrath shall go forth as wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and they shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. All right, America. All right, verse 31. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and that they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. Verse 33. In the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them, and all their hosts shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. So yeah, going back to the sleeper cells that they got set up. All right, and the different types of counter T attacks that they're going to commit against Babylon the Great. Okay, which is going to bring America down completely. All right, so again, just pulling out the fact that they have, as I always talk about, the axis of resistance, according to what's it called, the King Alfred, not the King Alfred plan, the Albert Pike plan. All right, where they're going to bring in the Third World War, right? But the axis of resistance, and these are those nations that are rising up against that Western hegemony. Okay, the nations Iran, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Yemen, Houthi, Iraq, Shia militias, Palestine, Hamas. All right, which makes up that pretty much that military coalition that's coming against America and Israel. Okay, which is leading to nuclear war. So, like I said, just to make that point, I had the video pulled up here, going into the Albert Pike plan. All right, because it's all happening here, right? Let's just listen to a little bit of this too. Make that point.
The 3 world wars were planned in the 1800s. That's according to a letter from 33-degree Freemason Albert Pike, who wrote a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini, who was the director of the Illuminati. And this is what this letter, written in 1871, said.
Across the globe by millions, and now
The following is a letter that speculation claimed that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871. Now, these are extracts from the letter showing how 3 world wars have been planned since the 1800s. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. And again, the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and the Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm.
Bear with me.
What is Spectrum Internet?
The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be concluded in such a way that Islam and political Zionism, e.g. the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations...
And this is where we are now, all right? The so-called Zionism, all right, and the Islamic world are clashing right now, which is going to result into World War III, all right, until they end each other, as he was saying. So this is in full effect right now, all right? We're actually living and watching this play out.
Once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
Yeah, and that's the plan. Okay, they're going to bring forth this nuclear war, get rid of so-called religion, bring this cataclysmic event, roll out this new world order, introduce the world to Satan, basically. Okay, so everything is moving according to this plan. All right, that's why I wanted to just briefly play this little clip here, man. So we're actually living to see this shit, man. All right, that's why I said it's going to be much bloodshed. All right, in these streets to come. All right, again, the American nightmare is here. All right. Anyway, so I wanted to just make that point. So let's move on here. Quite a few tabs, right? This is from right here. This article here is from the New York Times, right? And it just confirms what we've been telling you, okay? In the headline, it says number of U.S. troops deaths suddenly appear lower on Pentagon website. It says 3 military officials and a Pentagon spokesman gave conflicting explanations for why the number of Americans killed in the Iran war has changed. So we told you that a couple of days ago that they were manipulating the numbers. They're not giving you the real report. Okay, it's thousands of soldiers that are being killed right now. There's military bases that are being strategically bombed by the Iranians. All right, and remember they got the intel from Russia and China. Okay, so they're doing a lot of damage out there, man. And these things are definitely going underreported. All right, we're not going to read this article, but you get what we're saying here. Okay, mainstream media is lying, talking about 14, 18 deaths No, it went from 18 deaths to 14, right? But we know it's way more than that. Okay. Again, a lot of death is on the way here, right? So let's get to this video, right? And we'll grab more scriptures as we move along. All right. This one's from Midas Touch. Trump is scared for his life as Iran demands revenge, right?
Iran is haunting him. Donald Trump is scared for his life as Iran is haunting him. Donald Trump fears that Iranian leadership wants to have him dead and has put in motion plans to kill him, to kill his family. And there are others in the Trump regime who aren't taking car services right now, according to an article from the Wall Street Journal, because they're fearful that the car drivers are actually hired by Iran to assassinate them. There is mass paranoia taking place in the White House right now. Late last night, Donald Trump was posting videos of the 8th round, Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman. He was posting it over and over again. He's already lost his damn mind, but what's left of it, which I guess is nothing, he's losing even more of it. Now, we've been reporting how the threats on Donald Trump's life, it's forcing him into just this deep sense of utter paranoia. But now the Wall Street Journal confirming our reporting. It's interesting, right? New York Times also confirming our reporting from a few days ago that the Trump regime was deleting and manipulating the killed in action stats and the injured stats in terms of those who were harmed or killed in his catastrophic war in Iran. I guess right now Donald Trump is claiming that those who were injured or killed recently were not part of Epic Fury, but were part of a entirely new war or new conflict. How horrific is that? And he's deleted those deaths from Epic Fury. Here's what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. The war has taken a personal toll on Donald Trump and his senior advisors. Some top aides have been advised by intelligence agencies that the Iranians are seeking to kill them and have told them stop taking car services. They're fearful of taking car services in Washington, D.C. because they fear they're going to be assassinated. Donald Trump is, he's been furious that there were leaks from Turkey, that he was afraid to go on the Qatari Air Force One because he believed that Iran was going to strike the Qatari Air Force One, which doesn't have some of the capabilities that the actual Air Force One had. And so Trump was fearful for his life then. And Iran just keeps on leaning into this. They're mocking him. They're showing that he's a marked person in their mind. Like,
yeah, this nigga Trump on borrowed time, bro. Man. But as the scriptures say, you dealt treacherously with the other nations, so now the nations are going to deal treacherously with you. All right, let me get that in Isaiah 33. All right. This guy's paranoid. He's walking on eggshells. Right. This is Isaiah 33:1. And it reads, it says, woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled, and dealt treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they should deal treacherously with thee. This is why he's paranoid, man. They got it out for him and his family. They got him on billboards out there of him and his family members laying in coffins. All right. They say they want blood, they want revenge. Okay. So this shit is getting wild. We told you, man, that great and violent transition. Okay, it's underway. NLT, what sorrow awaits you, Assyrians, all right, the modern day Assyrians, the Edomites, who have destroyed others, but have never been destroyed yourselves, right? Sit on the, how does it go in Isaiah 47 we read? Sit on the ground. There is no throne, no power. Sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. You have destroyed others, but you have never been destroyed yourselves. You betray others, but you have never been betrayed, all right? But now America's finding that out, okay? When you are done destroying, you will be destroyed. When you are done betraying, you will be betrayed, man. So look, this guy, he don't know who to trust. He got to watch his back. You see what I'm saying? It's not a good look for this guy, right? Let's play a little bit more.
Donald Trump will post, Trump orders CENTCOM to open the gates of hell after U.S. troops killed, launches strikes on Iran. Donald Trump reposting this, open the gates of hell. And then Iran draws an X over his face on their various social media accounts. And the Iranian embassy accounts all say, stay at the same airport and welcome more fallen soldiers. Stay at the same airport, Donald. You have MB Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament leader, top civilian politician in Iran. He used to be in the army also, PhD, the lead negotiator. He's just mocking the hell out of Donald Trump. He realizes how scared, how fearful, how weak Donald Trump is. And he posts this cartoon and he says, they wanted to punish Iran, but they punished themselves with triple digit oil instead. 10 of 10 strategy, clap emojis. And it's a cartoon of someone riding a bike. World US economy. Let's blockade Iran. Easy peasy. And the person falls off their bike and starts complaining, oil's now $150 a barrel. Global recession. Gas is $5 to $7 a gallon. The 10-year treasury note is 6%. 30-year mortgages at 10%. Wah, Iran did this. They are just mocking the hell out of Donald Trump. And did you see what went down yesterday? I reported on it yesterday evening. Donald Trump tried to get the Iraqi Prime Minister al-Zaidi, when he was visiting Iran, to serve as a new mediator because Pakistan can't mediate anymore because they have a defense treaty with Saudi Arabia. So they can't be neutral anymore since the Houthis are now blocking the Bab el-Mandab Strait for Saudi tankers, and 2 Saudi tankers blew up. So Pakistan can't be the mediator anymore. Qatar really doesn't want to be the mediator anymore because they know Donald Trump always breaches all of these agreements. And Qatar is worried that if Donald Trump starts destroying more Iranian infrastructure, Iran will hit the oil and gas facilities in Qatar and just obliterate Qatar's economy. So Qatar doesn't want to really even be that close to Donald Trump in these negotiations. So remember earlier, Donald Trump, in the past few days, he met with the Iraqi prime minister. Remember, al-Maliki was supposed to be the prime minister, but the U.S. wanted al-Zaidi. They thought they can control him more. And then he visited the White House and Donald Trump hit on him. Like, look how handsome you are. You're such a handsome man. That's like one of the weird things that Donald Trump has done as his kind of cognitive and physical condition continues to deteriorate. He keeps telling different men in the White House how handsome he is and how attracted he is to them. Like, remember the leader of Syria, Donald Trump, started.
Yeah, dude's a weirdo. That's what that's about. But he's being betrayed is the point. I want to just grab something before we move on there. All right. So, just reporting on what's really going on here. All right. But that power is no more. Isaiah 14, thinking about that too. All right. Isaiah 14 and verse 9. And it reads, Isaiah 14:9, it says, hail from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. That hail represents destruction. Okay. Esau being brought down. Okay. It stirreth up the dead for thee, which are the heathen, even all the chief ones of the earth. It have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. And this is where we're at now. Okay. The kings of the nations being raised up for this final world's war. All right. NLT. In the place of the dead, there is excitement over your arrival. The spirit of the world leaders and mighty kings long dead to stand up to see you. All right. So that's a whole different thing. All right. To lock you. Anyway, we didn't want that. Verse 10. all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Like he was saying in the video, in that Midas Touch video, Edomite, okay, how he's being mocked by the world leaders. Okay, he's being seen as weak. Okay, this ties into that. All right, they see the blood in the water, man. All right, verse 11, thy pomp, which is thy pride, is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Right, going into pretty much his power is being eroded. Okay, his influence is decaying. Okay, this was getting ready to happen to him. Okay, that corruption is all everything around him is falling. Okay, verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven? All right, which goes back to power. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? All right, when you look up Lucifer here, the king of Babylon, who's the king of Babylon? Esau, Edom. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Right? NLT, how are you fallen from heaven, O shining star, son of the morning? You have been thrown down to the earth, you who have destroyed the nations of the world. See it? So he's fallen. Okay. So anyway, let's move on. All right. Again, the bloodshed is going to be spilled out here in the streets. Again, the American nightmare. As you see, this guy Trump is panicking. He's scrambling. Right. Let's add some more. All right. More bad news. Right. Check this out.
To all of our American men who've been collecting all those guns and training to fight for our country in your basement, the IDF and the U.S. military are merging. So the IDF, they're going to come into the streets and try to fight you. Now you have a reason to use those fucking guns you've been storing away and collected for many, many years. And it's going to be a beautiful day.
Yeah, we've been talking about that, man. You got the merger, the military merger of America's government with Israel. All right, and you're gonna have these I to the DF soldiers out here on the streets having their way. Right. Let me play that again, because we told you it was gonna go this way, man. So she was saying all these Americans that have arms, now's the time to pretty much use them. So we know that this thing is gonna end up in a clash in the Civil War. Let me just play it again. Lord willing, you can hear it.
To all of our American men who've been collecting all those guns and training to fight for our country in your basement, the IDF and the U.S. military are merging. So the IDF, they're going to come into the streets and try to fight you. Now you have a reason to use those fucking guns you've been storing away and collected for many, many years. And it's going to be a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's definitely about to go there. All right. 2 Ezra 15. Let's go back to that. Okay. Because who else is going to be gunning down so-called American people in the streets in that time? It's going to be them soldiers disguised as American troops. Okay. 2 Ezra 15 and 14 again. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Right. So it's going to be an uprising, man. All right. Repeat these Edomites, these right-wing pro-American Edomites versus the government. Okay. And who now runs the show? Okay. Them tiny tops. For there should be sedition among men, and invading one another, they should not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in the power. All right. So it's gonna be every man for himself. Okay, a free for all, man. Okay, it's gonna be melee in the street, man. A man should desire to go into a city and should not be able, for because their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. All right. And a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Okay, this is the American nightmare that has now become a reality. Okay, mass casualties, blood would be poured out in the streets, right? Let's add on. Okay, this is from a day ago from the diary of a CEO. It says, urgent update. Iran expert, a mass casualty attack is coming. All right, check this out.
You've just defined a constitutional crisis. Congress will think it has the power. President Trump will think he has the power. That is what is a constitutional crisis. And that's why these midterms, as my, don't mean to say it quite in this context, but as you know, I have a book coming out, Our Own Worst Enemies. The preface is called The Most Dangerous Elections in Our Lifetimes. That is why this election coming up will be the most dangerous election in our lifetime, because the tensions now are growing on top of all that. They're not calming down.
Martin Luther said, I want to make Moses so German that no one would suspect he was a Jew. Now that can sound.
Hold on 1 second.
The Iran war is making all these worse. And what you just read is the tension here that could well come, because the Democrats are not going to want there to be a forever war. And they're likely to fight really hard once they control once they control one or both houses of Congress. President Trump will want to fight really hard for his.
And I want to make a point, as he was talking about that tension that's going on globally. It's all about it's all going to boil over as we see it. Ecclesiastes 3. Just want to make that point too. The people think that peace is coming. Nowhere in sight, man. Only death and destruction. All right. Thus saith the prophecies. All right. Ecclesiastes 3 and 1, and it reads, it says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. All right. We're clearly in the time of killing. All right. And breaking down. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn. Right. What did Iran say they were going to do? They were going to conduct a T attack that will cause national mourning in America. All right. Prophecy. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. All right. Well, this is why you see all this division and global tension boiling up all over the planet Earth, man. We're in that time to refrain from embracing. There is no unity going on. There's no peace. Okay. Yahushua said, think not that I come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but rather division. Okay. Verse 6, a time to get and a time to lose, and a time to keep and a time to cast away. Right. A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, which these prophecies are speaking. A time to love, verse 8, a time to love and a time to hate. Okay, what's going on in Iran, the Middle East in general? Okay, with all of these so-called Muslim nations. Okay, a time to hate, a time of war. All right, we're in a time of hate and war. In the time of peace, right? No peace to the wicked. So there you have it. Let's play on.
Constitutional crisis. Congress will think it has the power. President Trump will think he has the power. That is what is a constitutional crisis. And that's why these midterms, as my, don't mean to say it quite in this context, but as you know, I have a book coming out, Our Own Worst Enemies. The preface is called The Most Dangerous Elections in Our Lifetimes. That is why this election coming up will be the most dangerous election in our lifetime, because the tensions now are growing on top of all that. They're not calming down those waters. The Iran war is making all these worse. And what you just read is the tension here that could well come, because the Democrats are not going to want there to be a forever war. And they're likely to fight really hard once they control once they control one or both houses of Congress. President Trump will want to fight really hard for his legacy and his domestic agenda, including deportations, including ICE. So this will all come together. These will not be compartmentalized, separate issues as we get into the midterms. That's why I'm saying that we're coming, the midterms. We're not heading to a future where it's just about what happens to military bases overseas. It's just about what happens to ships overseas and what's happening in Hormuz. These lines, the domestic political violence in the United States, I call this the era of violent populism, and the growing tensions in the country over the Iran war. These two lines, the domestic crisis and the international crisis, are about to come together. And as I told my research team in the summer of 2024 in talks I gave in Chicago, my nightmare, they asked me what my nightmare scenario was. This was in the fall of 2024. And I said, my nightmare scenario is we have an international crisis at the same time as we have
Goddamn commercials, man. 1 second.
An election. In the fall of 2024, we really didn't have that. Now we do. And this is, we're heading into the fall of 2026. And this was always my nightmare scenario.
Why? What does that mean? What are those two things colliding?
Those two things colliding start to look like the 1960s.
And what happened in the 1960s?
The 1960s, we had mass demonstrations. We had anti-war violence. We had anti-war terrorism with the Weather Underground. We had multiple assassinations that occurred. Martin Luther King, it was Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. The convention in Chicago, there was just mass demonstration. Mayor Daley in Chicago gave a shoot to kill order. I already mentioned to you the Weather Underground string of bombs that they set off. So what we faced in the 1960s was the collision of domestic political tension with an unpopular war. That's how you got the chaos of the 1960s. I have a whole chapter in the book about the 1960s and why it was so particularly intense.
So do you think that Trump is likely to lose the midterms as things stand? Do you think the Republicans are likely to lose?
Here's the thing. If we have a mass casualty attack, this will increase the odds of Trump and the Republicans winning in the midterms. And I think if we have a world economic crisis without the mass casualty attack, then I think it's likely that the Republicans will lose in the midterms.
Okay.
So I think
so that's crazy. So America can get hit with anything, man. An economic crisis, they can crash this bitch. They could have a mass casualty attack. It could be some type of, biological warfare attack. You don't know, man. Okay. But the point is, that's the American nightmare that I'm talking about, man. Okay. That's the reality, the reality of this thing. Okay. Blood being spilled all over in the streets, man. That's why I said 2nd Ezra 15 and 2nd Ezra 16 is at the door. And I just want to read this and we'll wrap it up. Just putting that out there, man. Because this is all part of the anticipation, right? We all know through the spirit that they're planning something epic, man. All right. So we're just giving you the heads up because the scriptures tell us to redeem the times because the days are evil. All right. So we're letting you know this before it all takes place, man. You were warned by the prophets of Yahweh Shemel Rashad first. 2 Ezra 16, straight to the point. Verse 17 and 18, woe is me, who would deliver me in those days. Verse 18, the point, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, right? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, all right? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, mass casualties, biological warfare, man. This shit ain't no joke, right? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, mass casualties. The beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? You see? Let's put a little bit more. We'll wrap this up. All right.
We have the reason I can't give you a clean answer to this, which I know people want. They would, because we have multiple specific issues here that are now as part of the spiraling violence.
And three months isn't awful long.
It's a long time because that mass casualty attack could happen in October. And it doesn't have to be command directed by Iran. It can occur.
It could happen in October. You know,
the mass casualty attack against Americans can occur because it's an inspired attack. The supreme leader is issuing statements that sound almost like Baghdadi, that was the leader of ISIS, issuing statements to encourage inspired attacks. That was the suicide attacks in Paris in November 2015 that killed over 100 people. That was San Bernardino. So we saw leaders inspire attacks before, and the supreme leader's statements are eerily close to the same words.
Is the current US air campaign sustainable? You hinted at this earlier on that actually
yeah, so you can watch the rest of that. I just wanted to play that part, but what he was saying, thought about that in Obadiah 1:1. Let me pull it up. All right. A lot of death is coming. All right. Obadiah 1:1, and it reads, it says, put it in the screen here. Okay, Obadiah 1:1, and it reads, it says, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh Shemel Rashad, concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Okay, that's exactly what's going on in the so-called Middle East right now. Okay, with these so-called Arabic nations. Okay, this is why they're talking about mass casualties. All right, NLT, the vision. This is the vision that the sovereign Lord revealed to Obadiah concerning the land of Edom. We have heard a message from the Lord Yahweh Shemel Rashad that an ambassador was sent to the nations to say, get ready, everyone. Let's assemble our armies and attack Edom. This is where we at right now. How heavy is that? All right. So again, before we wrap this up, okay, the American nightmare is here. All right. Blood will be poured out in the streets, man. You see that? So hey, keep your head on the swivel. Redeeming the times because the days are evil. Shalom.